I think I'll get started and welcome everyone to what I believe will be our last programming event for 2021, barring any unforeseen pop-up midweek recharges. But this is indeed our last midweek recharge of the year. And I'll want to say, as I'm Chet Dalzell, I'm on the board with the Direct Marketing Club of New York, and these esteemed companies are our sponsors for our annual program and activities. Thank you to Axiom, thank you to Weiland and Alliant, and Japs Olson Company, Epsilon, and McVigar and Higginbotham. Great to have you guys with us in 2021. And I want to thank too all our members and even our guests who have joined us for our program today and during the year. We love having you. Just a little bit of a housekeeping for our webinar. We ask you to keep things mute, and that means even my phone is on mute. And if you, just to keep the background noise down. If you have a question for the panel, this is gonna be an interactive panel, so we can take questions as they come, but use your Q&A function on the webinar to submit a question, and we'll screen them for our panel. And I also have some hashtags for us today, if anyone's doing some social media, midweek recharge, personalization, customer engagement. The Twitter handle for DMCNY is @DMCNY. And then I also want to take this opportunity to invite you all to an as yet undisclosed location live in New York City for the annual Outlook from Bruce Beagle of the Winterbury Group. This is a can't miss event. It is probably the most important. I can't tell you how much in data-driven marketing I look forward to what Bruce has to say, not just about media spend, but all the trends that he sees behind the media spend. It is so useful for both agencies, client side, ad tech, martech. It's a phenomenal can't miss event. So please make sure you and your colleagues get signed up for this event. We'll have the URL go live shortly once the location has been secured. So just look forward to that. And without further ado, let me get into today's program today. We are honored to have two marketing experts with us today to talk about personalization and consumer engagement. And why that matters now is not just because of my 2-foot stack of catalogs and 500 emails a day I get, but you know what? When a brand breaks through that clutter, so to speak, it's because they're speaking to me as a customer. And I really believe in the power of relevance and personalization in marketing. And I want us as an industry to be the best practitioners we can. And that's why we are blessed today to have Ginger Conlon, who is Thought Leadership Director for Genesis, and Carrie Parker, who is Senior Vice President of Marketing for Cordial, joining us today. Genesis, for all you folks, is basically, oh gosh, what's the count I use? 70 billion remarkable customer experiences in organizations for more than 100 companies using cloud, digital, AI technologies. I think of them as contact center experts. And then Carrie and Cordial, I should say, Cordial is a cross-channel marketing platform. I think of them as email, as SMS and text marketing, mobile apps, and also the customer data platforms that support that. So they both have tons of consumer B2B clients that are names we well know. So let's welcome them today. And why this, why I am, we came up with this study, excuse me, why we came up with this session today was because I saw some studies from both of these organizations this year that really spoke to me and I think might speak to you. So, Carrie, I'm going to start with you today. We know that email engagement, plays a critical role in establishing and maintaining relationships with consumers. And I just want to talk about, I see a lot of personalization in my email box, others do too. I just want to ask you a little bit about what are some of the top tactics businesses are using that we all need to be taking advantage of in our customer journeys.
Yeah, well, thank you, Chad, and hi, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. This topic is near and dear to my heart and Cordial's heart. Clearly, we focus a lot of our time and effort on helping brands be personalized. And to answer your question, Chet, the importance of personalization, we've talked about it for years. And so as you'll see on the next slide, I think everyone recognizes its importance. But the very nature of what personalization in marketing means today is really quite different, and it's evolved as new technologies, as new capabilities, and the ability to use data has just changed in really powerful ways. And so there's more that we can do with personalization than ever before, and consumer expectations have risen as well. And so even though we know that personalization is important, we conducted research recently that you mentioned on the importance of personalization to consumers. And we wanted to understand their points of view to really understand how they're seeing personalized offers today. And the long and the short of it is, perhaps not surprisingly, consumers want really specific offers, deals, and products that are meant for them, and that speak to them and their needs. And perhaps not surprisingly as well, when personalization is right, they're more likely to buy. But I think it's important to call out that consumers, especially when they've given their personal information to brands, they don't just expect lightweight personalization or their name tacked onto a generic email. They want something that's really valuable to them as individuals, something that's meaningful and different. So as you can see on the next slide, and I'm not sure if they're advancing, or perhaps it's just me that's stuck. But we find that marketers who go hyper-personalized, specifically with trigger emails in particular, are those that see those outsized results. The kinds of messages that speak to what consumers want from personalized offers, that give them value in the moment, that understand who they are, what they want, what they might need. These are the things that resonate. And our clients at Cordial, on average, will see 10x more revenue on an RPM basis.
Terry, can you go back 2 slides if you could, please? Thank you. There we go. I don't know if you're seeing that, Carrie. We have the 10x slide up right now.
Great. I'm seeing a delay on my end, but I'll just keep on talking and we'll just we'll go from there. Yeah. So our clients.
By the way, I wanted to let you know I am definitely with you on this triggered stuff, because my ADHD takes me off of I abandon a cart unintentionally, and it sure helps to get that message. Hey, a few hours a day later, whatever, just letting me know that. So please carry on.
Yeah, you mentioned that because it's, the majority of emails that are out there are promotional, but we see when we're working with clients, when they move to that triggered approach that you just mentioned, Chet, that they see outsized results. So basically, we work with our clients to help them send fewer emails that perform better. It's about having that relevance in triggers and shifting more of that volume to triggers, because quite frankly, it's just more meaningful to consumers and it really engages them. So to answer your question on the types of triggers that range, this holiday season in particular, things like just re-engagement or limited inventory alerts, cart abandonment, those are the things that we see really drive higher average order value. And even strategically setting up triggered or browse or shopping cart abandoned message to engage people after they leave a site, it's really a great way to incentivize purchase and just engage on a deeper level. But it's not even just the triggers, it's really understanding everything about what a person might need and then having the ability to engage them in that moment. So if you see on the next slide, this holiday season in particular, there's an opportunity on a number of fronts. And one, I think it's not just to incentivize purchase, but it's also to fuel loyalty longer term. We conducted some research recently, and we found that 60% of consumers are likely to shop from brands that they've never even heard of before. And this was even higher with millennials. So this great shift to e-com and DTC that was sparked by COVID has really opened people's eyes that there's alternatives out there. And so it's also incumbent on marketers and brands to really go above and beyond to give consumers what they want in the moment, because otherwise they're going to look elsewhere. Some of the things that we're working with our clients on are using every bit of data that they have on consumers and business data, so supply chain data, for instance, to really personalize in meaningful ways to help consumers navigate some of those challenges, like with supply chain this holiday season. So thinking really creatively and engaging one-on-one with personalized offers that use what's in stock, what are their past purchases that might predict future interests, supply chain data, SKU level data. All of these things are super important.
Carrie, I'm going to come back to you on data silos and breaking down those data silos and unifying data from different platforms. So hold that thought. Yeah. Ginger, let me go to you for a second and kind of ask from Genesis' perspective on, what techniques have you been seeing that resonate with customers as far as brand engagement goes?
Yeah, so on the next slide, what you'll see is we conducted a study of about 16,000 consumers globally called the Connected Customer Experience. And consumers like getting non-sales communications. So along with all of the marketing messaging that Carrie was just talking about, and especially those triggers, I'm on board 100% on that too. I mean, it really ups the relevancy of the messaging when you take that approach. But consumers also love to get additional information. So maybe they've made a purchase and there's a follow-up with further instructions, or you send it's a content marketing message about recipes, but you can buy all the ingredients, or you can buy the pots and pans you need to make it, or whatever. So throwing in some other communications to support them, and they think that is an example of great customer service. And you can see that this is global. Customers look forward to receiving those additional communications to support their relationship with their favorite brands.
Do you feel like there's a, I see this as global, but I mean, when I say non-sales communications, I think it's often, hello, it's about revenue. The irony is it's about revenue, but, I'm wearing my consumer hat. There's no doubt about it in my head that this is about building a relationship versus the next transaction. And I think that's part of the conveyance of built brand loyalty and trust that just comes from a non-sales communication. And I think, thank you for both of you for underlining that for us. Carrie, in the next slide, if you want to throw that up, it's fine. I'm just going to talk about it, introduce this this concept of a disconnect between what brands say they're doing on the part of personalization and what consumers perceive as part of brands doing a good job in personalization. And I think there's a disconnect going on. I'd like you to talk about that and maybe talk about what we can do better on the marketing side to overcome or counter what consumers perceive as a lack of personalization. Can
Absolutely.
you talk about that for me?
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack here. We recently released the Cordial Cross-Channel Marketing Study where we dug into this a lot. We surveyed 2,000 consumers to really understand their perspectives around what they want from marketing, what they see in marketing. And then we also surveyed about 500 marketers to get the counterpoint and understand if there is a disconnect and what do they see on both sides. And, first, the majority of marketers, as you see here, 89%, they feel that they're creating a unique experience for customers through SMS and email. And, this is maybe not surprising. I mean, I'm a marketer too. I think we all want to think that the work that we're doing is groundbreaking and it's breaking through in amazing ways. But, when we actually understood the consumer's point of view, we saw something that was a little bit different. So if you go to the next slide, on the flip side, when we asked consumers what percentage of the communications that they were receiving were personalized, very small percent by comparison. So, clearly consumers aren't feeling that what they're receiving is meant for them or personalized for them. And so there's a lot here that I think is fueling that disconnect. I think marketers think that they're doing enough, but how they're evolving their personalization strategy to meet consumer demands simply may not be keeping up. And I think with consumers, they understand that there's a value exchange. If they're giving their information willingly, again, they want brands and expect brands to do something with that, to give them something more. And so the smart and the innovative brands are out there elevating their game and thinking about how they can use data in new ways and technology in new ways. But it's a challenge. We asked in our study as well, we asked marketers about those challenges to personalization, and 3/4 said that there were obstacles to getting personalization right. And they ranged from inability to access data to technology simply not being up to speed or lack of resources. And this is something that we see a lot out there, that many marketers are struggling to get personalization right because there's fractured data. Data is located in a number of different ways. They're having challenges making it work together, or they're working with some legacy technologies that just can't keep up. But I think it's incumbent on us as marketers today to really think in more progressive ways to deliver for consumers what they want and what they expect.
I mean, bingo. Between legacy, from our, legacy data, we have so many different MarTech platforms. I'm thinking of, even when my boss asked me to get something out, I'm going to Salesforce, I'm going to, my constant contact, I'm bringing different data points together, sometimes manually, to get a relevant message out there. It's when you take, you go to a retailer who might have a store presence, who might have a loyalty program, that might have all sorts of a digital platform, and you're trying to unify that data. I'm sure there's a struggle in putting that all into one platform and to enable more relevant communication.
Yeah.
One of the big famous complaints we get in my world is remarketing, and hey, I bought the blue dress. Why are you still showing me that display ad? Well, it's because the transaction data isn't talking to the targeting data, and that's a disconnect. And it's irony that you need more. Consumers worry about being creeped by a creepy effect of an ad following them around when they really want the next product to buy. You know what I mean? And it's actually more data flows and more data analysis that enables a better personalization experience.
It's true. Consumers want real time. They have real time expectations, and the data and the technology have to keep up.
Hey, Ginger, do you guys, in your zeal to personalize, what kind of impacts are you guys seeing, benefits accruing for consumers in the customer journey?
Yeah, well, so before I answer that, I just want to say, we conducted recently the State of Customer Experience. We talked to about 2,700 consumers and nearly 700 customer experience leaders. And on the CX leader side, Carrie, it pretty much echoed the same list of issues, right? So there's still a big disconnect with, data silos and all of those things that you said in getting personalized experiences across, marketing, sales, and service. But when you do deliver those personalized experiences, if we can jump 2 slides ahead, consumers, they will buy more often. They will do a greater percent of shopping with you. They will refer you to a colleague and friend, or a friend. This is nearly 80% of consumers globally. They enjoy personalized experiences if you're doing it on a regular basis. But when you talk to CX leaders, what degree do you feel like you're delivering personalized service? 44% are saying that they're extremely personalized. Now, this is more on the service side, and then about a third are saying, oh, it's only somewhat personalized. So there's still, I like to call it an opportunity gap, right? Because there's so much more that you can do, and that's, when you take those actions, it becomes a great opportunity to create a virtuous cycle of what I just said, right? So you're more personalized, and consumers want to interact with you more. They want to buy more. They want to recommend you more, and it's just all goodness.
Agreed. Do you feel, are there any concerns consumers have around personalization? And I'm thinking of another P word, privacy.
Yeah, so the next slide, consumers, they're a bit torn, right? They want to share their data because they want a better service. They want better marketing communications, but they're also still a little hesitant. Things really haven't changed so much since we did this study in 2017. So they do appreciate when businesses keep track of their purchases, their preferences, even their location in some cases, their health information, and their credit cards, so that they can have that better service experience. But there's still, like I said, a little bit of discomfort. On the next slide, you can see some of the numbers around that. So when a company remembers you, consumers tend to feel a little bit more connected. On the one hand, on the other hand, still about 3/4 want to control how much data they're sharing with companies. Some are like, 12% are like, hey, take all the data you want, and 11% are like, I really prefer to keep all my data to myself. So, but the vast majority, they're fairly comfortable. And I think, to Carrie's point earlier, if you show the value exchange, that's where the comfort level increases. And you see here in the corner of that slide, 2/3 of consumers feel that when companies collect data, it improves the service experience. So if you just are more transparent with how using the data will deliver value, I think that will help build consumer comfort and trust over time. And if you look at the next slide, we talk a little bit more about data privacy. What's really interesting, so we asked the question, what social, ethical, or environmental issue do you care about most that you expect companies to care about and advocate for as well? And above this whole list, data privacy and protection was number one. Above all else, above all like the human rights issues and everything else. But interestingly, CX leaders feel the same. It's their number one issue as well. And how surprising is it that companies and consumers are aligned on this issue. And I think it's really important and valuable to know that they are aligned here.
I'm going to jump in, Ginger. You think of our politics in America today and how polarized they are between Republicans and Democrats. Yet there's such a drumbeat from both parties, maybe for different reasons, for federal privacy law. And I think it's because we recognize the importance of data stewardship, both from the private sector side, but also as policymakers. We live in an information economy. And in an information economy, data is the fuel. Data is the valuable differentiator. This moves commerce. But we have to do it always in a manner that is responsible and always in a manner that builds trust, or else it's worth not, or else we're just spinning our wheels and doing damage. So, hello, I work on a program, privacy program, that's all about transparency and control, real time for the consumer. And that's one of the reasons why it's such a successful program, is because we're all working to this end goal of transparency control. I actually see data in a way and privacy and security issues as part of is always been doing the right thing. I mean, it's always been that kind of an issue. But as a conduit of trust and as a destroyer of trust, hello, if you slip up, you're going to pay the price. So, and our marketers need to recognize themselves as data stewards, as data ethicists, whether or not there's a law. And I think this research kind of underscores that. Let's jump over to, I think this is like, we're coming up on the 30th anniversary of email. And I want to talk a little bit about email. Think about it. Email marketing to me is so important. It's probably it seems like every other year when Bruce Beagle comes to talk to us, he brings up email and he talks about how important it is as a connector for brands and consumers. And I feel like, all right, yep, we know that's to be true. But why is email being talked about right now as a, maybe, is it the pandemic? Is it, what things are going on right now that are generating another renaissance in email marketing? And I'm going to start off with Carrie here and ask her to speak to that.
Yeah, what's old is new again. Email is the hot channel. It is
yeah,
the renaissance.
I got it.
Yeah, email is still the highest ROI channel, and it is poised, I think, to grow for a couple different reasons. I think, as you were just talking about with privacy, is other digital channels are becoming more constrained, with cookies going away and location signals being constrained. The first party data that's used in email is even more important to delivering on those customer expectations that we talked about a few minutes ago. And I think that the very nature of what can be done in email today is very different than even just a few years ago, with new modeling capabilities, machine learning, predictive intelligence. All of these are able to be incorporated into the email experience, which positions email to be even better able to capitalize on those rising consumer expectations that we talked about. So, in our study, we see that 83% have shopped in response to emails, and this doesn't see any sign of abating. And the funny thing is, if you look on the next slide, consumers told us that during the pandemic, as you mentioned, COVID, they were signing up for even more emails throughout COVID as some of those behaviors shifted and digital buying increased. So, email isn't going away. It's only really becoming more relevant. And, for us, and this may be surprising for you, even if you look at some of the younger consumers, they were even more likely to sign up for emails during the COVID year or years as we're going on now. And so, for all of the hype around TikTok and Instagram being the hot channel for Gen Z and millennials, I think the reality is younger consumers, they value email, or perhaps more importantly, they value getting something super relevant to them. And it doesn't matter necessarily what channel it is, as long as they're able to get something unique and have that experience. And I think part of the other allure of email too is that there is this sense of discovery, the sense of discovery in the inbox, especially with all of those other capabilities and tools that can allow marketers to really surface something new and specific for consumers. So if you go to the next slide, we also found, and Chet, you alluded to this a few minutes ago, consumers like recommendations, and 8 in 10 consumers like receiving suggestions on what else they might like. And more than half have even made an unplanned purchase because of some of those recommendations. And this is even higher when you look at millennials. And so, when you think about, it's not really about what channel they're drawn to, but it's how you're offering value across all of those channels. And email at the end of the day is still important because it's an invaluable part of that cross-channel experience. So whether it's social or SMS and email, all of these channels, they're expected to work together to deliver something meaningful and an experience that's unique to each of those channels. So, Gen Z and millennials in particular, they prioritize those experiences and value. And I think that that's yet another reason why email is such an important part of the mix.
Younger generations, are they, my nephews and nieces taught me about social commerce and mobile commerce, and next I think they're talking to me about text. So I'm seeing my use of text right now with brands is more of a post-transaction service, those types of messages. But is text emerging as a marketing upfront channel?
Oh, 100%, 100%. So, we see that younger generations in particular are more likely to purchase in response to a text message. So SMS and MMS, they offer really visual opportunities, especially with MMS, and targeted opportunities to really engage in the moment. And that's something that Gen Z and millennials in particular are really gravitating toward.
Terry, I think there might be a next slide on that point.
Yeah, there you go, Terry. Thank you. Thank you for flipping that. Yeah, I think that the bottom line is they do see, Gen Z in particular, see SMS as a key part of the buyer journey, but it needs to work seamlessly with all of those other channels together. That, everything needs to be connected, going back to your point on data and using that to personalize in really powerful ways.
Well, I'm making a note of this NERCS product. It looks like something that it speaks to me. Sun damage. Anyway, okay. On your side, Ginger, do you see, what dynamics are you seeing in the marketplace too right now that are that kind of speak to this idea of engaging the consumer in I don't know if it's generational, but just how maybe during the pandemic interactions with consumers have changed?
Well, there's definitely a shift to digital, but what's funny about email, and this is a lot of this has to do with service interactions. When we talk to people who run contact centers, they're not huge fans of email because one metric that's important to them is first contact resolution. So they want to solve your problem right away. And a lot of times with email, people will say, I have this issue, but I also have that issue, and could you fix this thing? They have multiple questions about something, and sometimes it's different departments, so it's hard to get a first contact resolution with email. But to your point, Carrie, and Chet, customers still love email. They want to interact via email, and phone is, far and away still the number one interaction channel when it comes to customer service, or even sometimes, when you have a question about marketing campaign that you've received or what have you. But there is a shift to more digital channels. So you'll see here, this was the connected customer experience. So this was very much, this research was very much focused around pre-post pandemic. So you can see the shifts. Obviously, in-person dropped off a lot, but voice bot, chat bot has increased, live web chat has increased, email, and then live chat and chat bots are the fastest channels growing globally, which is kind of not surprising. But on the one hand, on the other hand, because so many people are using it, the satisfaction with the chatbot experience has actually declined. We found from the State of Customer Experience study over the past several years, and I think it's just that so many people are using it. It's a very the cost for entry is low, so sometimes these chatbots aren't maybe in the ideal use case. So I think we'll see going forward that will actually improve as companies respond to customers' complaints about the interaction, and as consumers get used to using chatbots. I personally, I go to a website, it's often the first thing I look for. Can I just ask my quick question? But on the next slide, you can see from the State of Customer Experience study how digital channels have evolved over that longer time period. And one of the fun things on this slide is people are actually using virtual home assistants to interact with companies for customer service. It's still a tiny amount, but the satisfaction is actually higher than all of the other channels. And I think it's because it's a simple interaction. It's just like, hey, Alexa, can you connect me with XYZ company because I need to know what temperature to cook my turkey at. And then, Butterball comes back and says, your 12-pound turkey needs to go in at 350 for 4 hours or whatever. I think I've just overcooked the turkey. But it's just interesting to see voice is, holding steady. It's dropped off, but it's still in the lead. But you can see here, email, big increase. And then, everything else has pretty much increased. So companies really need to think about their channel mix and what their customers are looking for in terms of marketing and service. And especially a lot of that overlaps these days, right? So where does that overlap happen and what actions should you be taking as a result of that?
It's funny, 5 years ago, I was, representative, trying to get to that live person. And now I'm post-pandemic, I'm really using all these other channels to interact. But I have to tell you, it's interesting because I see machine learning in effect. I mean, I'm watching, like if you're dealing with an airline, I think, or Amtrak or some travel, they seem to be very mature in their machine learning, and they understand the web chats, understand the chat bots. They all understand what you're trying to do and get you there fast. But some other brands aren't quite yet sophisticated there. So I think machine learning is really going to, I don't know if it's brand by brand, or there's some collective data, like brands share their data and try to get a better chatbot experience for, a retail setting or travel or, tech, that kind of a thing. So it's interesting to see those dynamics in play right now. Maybe this is a good time to talk about customer data platforms, because when I think of, this is an extra discussion point. We're trying to bring data in from many, many different sources and analyze it and apply it in a way that resonates with the consumer. And I worry. I thought the cookie for a long time did a lot of work for us in helping us identify audiences and helping us attribute response. But with the deprecation of the cookie, we now have to deal with, everyone's running for their first party data resources. But once again, Bruce Spiegel last year talked about second party data and also continued to say, well, third party data and other places other than cookies still has a role to play in appending your data. So I'm just kind of curious to see, among your client mix, do you guys still see data silos persistent? Are customers being successful in bringing their data platforms together and overlaying from different disparate sources? And are they applying it in ways that are, customer gets you have a 360-degree view of the customer, or is that still a broken experience? Where do you guys both see this right now?
Yeah, I can jump in on this one. Yeah, I think that we see there's a shift going on, and a lot of marketers are really struggling with that fractured data approach, with data in so many different places. And I think we're starting to see some of the more forward-leaning marketers try to take a different approach. I can speak from Cordial's perspective. We actually built our platform with a CDP as a part of the platform, knowing that you've got to unify all of that data to be able to deploy the kinds of marketing and messaging that's meaningful. But we do work with a number of brands and clients who they're starting to either use their own CDP or work with us for their CDP, because they recognize that you can't meet consumer expectations now with that kind of fractured data approach that you talked about, Chet.
Yeah, and I could just add that not everyone loves the CDP, but in my opinion, it's the opportunity to bring your data together in a dynamic fashion. A lot of times when you think about something like a data lake, the kind of the dig about the data lake is that the data just sits there and kind of the algae forms, and you don't want to go swimming in the data lake. It's things are looking bad. But a CDP is meant to be dynamic and bring that data together out as it's needed. And the thing about data silos is they're never wholly going to go away, because finance needs their data in this place to look at it in this way, in this format, with these pieces of information, and marketing needs their data in that other way, and supply chain folks need to look at different things. But you also want to be able to take the right data from those places and bring it together as needed, and more in real time, to respond to what's happening with different customers, or get ahead of what's going to be happening with different customers, and be able to take that more proactive approach. And the CDP allows you to do that more in the moment versus back looking and then saying, oh, well, this thing happened before, is it still valid now? Well, actually, right now the customer is doing this thing, and it's a moment of truth, and we have all that information pulled together in our CDP, so let's take this action.
That's a really good point, Ginger, on the backward-looking data. And one of the things that we've seen too is when people are able to unify their data in a CDP or in other ways, then you're able to create really compelling predictive models using that data, because it's not just data for data's sake, but it's using the machine learning that you talked about, Chet, and other kinds of predictive intelligence to have really specific and brand-specific models to figure out what do people want and how do we engage them.
Yeah.
Do you guys have any holiday shopping? Don't make me go through all my Cyber Monday happenings. But do you have any retailers or DTC brands that you've shopped from that you think are doing it right? Are you feeling that there's somebody we should pay attention to, somebody other marketers might want to mimic? I don't want to put anybody on the spot, but
I'll just talk about one brand that I like, not for the holiday season, but for all of the time, is Thrive Market. They are an online grocer, isn't really the right thing, because they very focus on all like healthy foods you can purchase by whether you're doing the Whole30 or you're on keto or you're a vegan or whatever. What I love about them is that they do a great job of using data to personalize, but also they're all about discovery. They have so many products that you would never think to like search for. And so, you know, they'll say, hey, your favorite item is on sale right now. And then, but by the way, we have these new things that you should check out. And they just do such a great job of balancing. There's things that I've purchased from them that I never would have tried or probably even heard of.
Can you put that URL in the chat for me?
That's a great one. One that I showed a screenshot earlier, but you know, Revolve is one of our clients, but I have also shopped from them over the holiday season, and I've shopped more and more from them because you know what they're doing with triggers is it's amazing. You know, it's that you will also like this, and this is back in stock, and you know they've got I think over 200 triggers at this point running with us. But I've also benefited from that as a consumer, which you know is kind of fun, nice.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Thrive Market. Good. Thank you. Right. Sure. Throw your URL in too, if you can, Carrie.
Well, you know, it's funny that Carrie used Revolve, and I think there was one other one that you used, Carrie, that both are brands that my daughter loves, and I was like, oh, I'm very familiar with those.
Maybe we'll go to the next slide, which kind of gives a link to some of the, for our participants, if they want to follow up and get copies of the full research, or to follow up with Carrie or Ginger, you can do so here. I just want to ask each of you guys just a kind of closing thoughts on 2022. We obviously have our crystal ball, and we're like, you know, we kind of know what do you think? I think we've made the case today about email validity. We've made the case today. What makes any media channel valid is using data to personalize. And in a way, how do I say this? But we have to do it in a way that resonates with the consumer. So they feel, he or she feels, boy, they're talking to me. And not that you can't do batch personalization, but you're getting the idea that we're using data intelligently. We're using marketing science intelligently. We're applying it for a better user experience. And I'd like to think that those are themes that we're going to make happen for our clients, a lot of us, or for marketers ourselves. Those are our New Year's resolutions. And we're going to do it in a way that's responsible. We're going to do it in a way that resonates and builds trust. Any kind of closing thoughts that you'd like to say about the personalization quest?
Yeah, I think for me, just as we've talked a lot about, consumer expectations have risen. I think in 22, I think marketers' expectations of their partners are going to rise accordingly. You know, I think marketers know that they shouldn't settle for cookie cutter solutions and older technology, and they're going to really look to up their game because they've seen how important it is to consumers, it's a great thing.
Yeah, and I think that the quest for personalization will continue, and I think it will broaden in the organization to where, you know, if you think about, there are areas where the lines blur between sales, marketing, and service, or two of the three of those, what have you. And personalization, I think, will just, as a result, kind of spread more throughout those different touch points of the organization. And, you know, as the digital channels kind of evolve as well, I think you'll see more. That's another thing that's going to bring that personalization together, like across channels, as all of these things blend, and as consumers are using more and more channels to interact with companies, you know, they're going to need to deliver those relevant experiences across whatever the consumer's preferred channels are. So it won't be easy, but I think companies are really going to keep moving forward on that path.
I wish there was an app for mapping the consumer journey.
Well, you know, the consumer journey, it's like, as we've talked about for the past couple of years now already, it's not linear, right? It's like a bumblebee path. It's all over. It's hard to map it. And, you know, we consumers, we humans don't make things easy. We change our mind. We stop in the middle of something. We, you know, take a different direction, right? So marketers definitely have their work cut out for them.
Indeed, indeed.
Ginger, you operate at bumblebee speed. I'm more butterfly. Hey, I want to say also, it'd be remiss to want to thank Ginger in particular. This is her last live event with us as our club president with the Direct Marketing Club of New York over the past 2 years. And I just want to say thank you for the, you know, helping us get through this pandemic. Speaking of, it's been quite the journey that no one expected, speaking of journeys. And we have to say, this is a pandemic that really we all know it brought consumers forward 5 years in digital maturity. And I think marketers are, you know, I think they've done a pretty good job because they had to, stepping up to that challenge of helping the consumer along. And the personalization is part of that. And it's going to be, if there's any legacy of this, it's just how we can use remote communication to help bring a satisfied customer experience, helping to make a closer trust with brands. Just want to thank you again, Ginger, for all that. Next slide. Hey, once again, I'm going to promote this. You know, one of my colleagues on the board outlined what came out of last year's luncheon. These 10 trends. In the experience economy, trust matters. The shift to streaming and digital formats will only continue. Online shopping will lead to increases in social commerce. Brands will continue to shift spend to performance channels. Digital marketing will be forced into the B2B world. Marketing, mergers, and acquisitions will surge and continue into 2021. Data regulations will lead to increase in first-party data spending. MarTech growth and transformation will continue. Second-party data, clean rooms, and permission-based marketplaces will continue to evolve. And decisioning immaturity leaves room for marketplace opportunity. That is why you need to be at the annual market luncheon with Bruce Beagle in New York City next January. It's face-to-face, it's a live event, it's not a hybrid. So I want you to get vaccinated and come to New York, and we'll have the location and registration open shortly. With that said, I'd like to thank Carrie and Ginger for their expertise and their insights today, and wish for everyone a healthful, prosperous holiday season. Thank you and enjoy your day.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.